And we are live. This is Travis from Trade with Travis, Carter Capital, Expert Advisor Reviews, and a lot of stuff that's going on with the Discord channel. Hope everybody's doing very well. Let's go ahead and go through the disclaimer, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some trading activity. The market's been moving a little bit more today. So today is officially like the first trading day of the year. As we go through, where we're going to see a little bit more active work. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from that education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. Now, understand that trading involves risk of being able to make money, also involves risk of being able to lose money, so please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you're going to end up making money today. So with that being said, as we go through and I place myself onto the screen, I want to make sure I end up saying hey and happy new year to each and every one of y'all that are watching live on here. This is the second time this year that we went live on YouTube, and obviously we're going to end up doing everything on Twitch a little bit later on tonight and on TradingView as we go through and getting everything else done sparingly. But if you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Travis. I have been trading professionally for the last 6 years. About to be 7, I believe. Yep. In the last 6 years, I've learned a lot when it comes down to the way that I've traded. I've started off as a scalper, and then after that, end up going into swing trading. Swing traded for a very long time. Created automation systems based off of swing trading, and ever since the summer of this year, I actually have been going back into more of a breakout style strategy for us, manual and automated. So we'll end up going from there. Arizine, what's going on? Happy New Year. Hope everything's going well with you. Hopefully you end up having a good, prosperous year. Obviously, I'm going to say that to everybody. I hope everybody ends up having a prosperous 2023. I'm excited. We've been doing a lot of work in the back end to be able to make sure that everyone ends up having a very good year. And that starts off with the challenges that we're doing now. We're actually going through the 100K challenge on. We're going to end up doing on my FOREX funds first on the 9th of January. We're going to do my FOREX funds. We're going to do Osprey FX. We're going to do FTMO all in the same month. We're going to see if we can pass all 3 in the same month. And then after that, we're going to do Surge Trader going into the end of the month. Hopefully, we'll see how the market kind of reacts, and if there's enough reaction to where we can be able to do all 4 of them at the same time, then we will. But if not, then we'll just try a couple of them as we go through. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening for today, what's happening for the overall week. And then after that, we're going to see what we have from an overall trading perspective. I'm going to talk about the trades that the boss EA has taken. I'm going to talk about what's happening with the Skywalker EA and how well it's been trading, as well as everything else that goes along with that. So, yesterday, there really wasn't nothing to be able to pay attention to. The banks wasn't open either way, so it really wasn't that much data to be able to work off of. Today, it's pretty much the same. We got Germany that's going to end up having consumer prices that they're going to end up paying attention to. That's going to happen at 9 a.m., so I don't know if there's going to end up being a lot of information to be able to pay attention to when it comes down to that. Going into tomorrow and the rest of the week, we should have non-farm payroll that should come out, because this will be the first week of the month, which I do see that non-farm payroll set to be at 200,000. We'll see how everything kind of plays out with that. Keep in mind, there's a lot of options, calls and puts that's going to end up triggering this week as well. So I decided that I wasn't going to end up doing the actual prop firm challenge this week. I was actually going to start it next week, because I wanted to see how the market was going to end up reacting before doing anything. And I think I feel comfortable about that, even though I literally just seen that we went on a seven thing win streak already this morning. But it is what it is. We'll see how everything kind of plays out. So let's go ahead and go. United States dollar index. Let's see. United States dollar index, where are we? Yesterday, when we ended up talking about this, we ended up saying that the market was showing up that there was going to end up being some type of consolidation right around that 12,814 area, the 12,960. That kind of remains to be the same on how I ended up looking at that earlier from yesterday. But we do know this. The market is in a weekly buy zone. It's been in a weekly buy zone for the last 4 weeks. it's kind of due for a retracement. And the question is, at the beginning of the month, of the new year, are we going to see that the market is going to end up starting to be able to make that jump immediately, or are we going to end up seeing a little bit of a retracement? That's something to be able to pay attention to. Obviously, as we go through non-farm payrolls and everything else that's going to happen at the end of the week, is probably going to end up truly kind of letting us know how the market's going to react, at least at the beginning. But the outer trend line has not been hit as of yet, which is this purple trend line as we go through, and we see that the market is in consolidation. So something to be able to pay attention to. Anything inside of here is a 33% chance of being able to win. Remember, we trade on the outsides of consolidation. There's no reason for us to be able to fight with everybody in the middle. So at this particular point, I'm not going to do anything until we end up truly seeing how this market's going to react. But that's a good pop to be able to see how the market's going to end up going. Hopefully, we don't see everybody just get stuck in here, and then after that, we don't have nothing to be able to move off of. But ultimately, what I would like to be able to see, especially for someone that's just trading this, that's kind of being an onlooker going into what's happening next week, I would rather it kind of tap and kind of stay inside of this consolidation this week, and then after that, start the breakout next week, because now we know what the actual direction we end up being based off of having more people and smart money be in the game as well. So United States dollar index, not going to do anything yet, but we will pay attention to that as we go through. U.S. oil, oil has been kind of fickle. We've seen the market, kind of go inside of its consolidation as well. We go to the weekly. We've seen the market fall all the way down to 67, I believe. $67 a barrel, and then after that started to look like it was going to fall again. Since then, market has stabilized. It's been relatively good gas prices. I think the last time I took a look at it yesterday was at 280 here. I know it ended up getting almost up to $4 a barrel when the market, well, it's above $4 a barrel when the market was humming based off of the Russian and Ukraine war. But from a daily perspective, what's happening? The market is bearish overall. If you look at direction, you look at it from a daily perspective, you see that the market has been retracing. The market is in the sell zone, which means that we should be looking for a counter trend line break to see if the market is going to end up falling. But I also see that we're inside of consolidation as well, which kind of makes it kind of hard for me to say that I'm interested in being able to stay in it, at least from first glance. We have been seeing that this market has been going on this downward trend, where the D extensions at 64.37. Currently, right now, we can see that it's a little bit of a downward channel, but I'm not. With that being said, I'm kind of not interested in being able to do anything off of this one as of yet. That was the trend line that we was paying attention to a little bit earlier. I just got onto a cleaner chart, but I don't know. Not going to do anything off of this one yet. Want to see how the market kind of reacts going into this week before we do anything. Gold was the biggest winner before the end of the year. The market really started popping above that 1,800 number. I remember we ended up having one trade before the end of the year. I think we ended up closing out all trading on the 22nd, where we believed that the market was going to end up going to 1,872. The reason why I felt that way was because that the market ended up breaking out of this consolidation, which meant that it was going to end up going to this consolidation high right here. Remember, when you break a resistance, you go to a resistance. It's always the same. It never really fails, depending on when it comes down to the year. And from a 2-hour perspective, we've seen that when we got into the trade, the market ended up breaking us out at 1811 and consolidated up top. And then after that, we got in. Gold is our head. Is it a headache? Are you saying gold is our headache? You didn't finish that one, everything. But went inside of consolidation, fell back down to the bottom, and then after that got stopped out. Now, if you would have got back into it right around that 1811 area again, which we knew, which was breakout, and kind of stayed in it by the end of the year, then would have been up substantially. Currently, right now, would have been up about 358 points at this point. But I know, like I ended up saying before, I wasn't interested in being able to trade. I wasn't interested in being able to trade after Christmas. So right now, I'm sitting on the wayside. I had a good plan, had a good idea. We just haven't traded it yet. So currently, right now, there's nothing to be able to do. We've seen the market end up having a big push up. Obviously, it's 6:40 in the morning, and we haven't even had our first U.S. session where everyone is actually in the market. So I'm going to kind of wait at this. I'm going to wait at this particular point and see how the market kind of reacts until it ends up getting into a 2-hour buy zone. If there's a counter trend line break, then after that we'll be good. But we end up going from there. Arizona said that gold should be at 1850. Let's see, 1850. Why are you saying 1850? Just asking. Let's see. I could see that. If we go based off of, when they do new updates, it never fails that it always messes up like small little things that I end up having on these programs. Never fails. Hold on. A little bit of transparency. There we go. Okay. So I could see that we had a little bit of support right there, My only thing is, if I'm looking at this Arizona, is that we've seen that it blew through this area. And if we look at the pricing that ended up happening, at least in June, that kind of, I think 1850 will be a good halfway point to be able to take some profit off. I don't think that 1850 is the ending point. I think that 1872 is the ending point, meaning that we end up having a strong rally, see the thing kind of pop. I think it'll get right here, and then after that have a harder rejection compared to 1850. Okay, but I do like that. I do like if you're trying to take out profit at that particular point. I can definitely make a case for being able to say 1850 will probably end up being a spot. But if we know based off what ended up happening from June, from May all the way into June of last year, 1850 wasn't really like a serious resistance or support. Okay. But either way, long story, long story, very short. Not going to do anything off of this one, at least not yet. Want to see how the market kind of reacts. Ain't no reason to sit up there and give up money. And with the unknown of what's happening. Bitcoin, let's take a look and see what's happening with that. Bitcoin is very simple. Not doing anything into the market, either breaks below 15.8 or 18.240. That's pretty much it. Nothing else to be able to say. Market kind of had that big pop that we had right before Christmas. Market slowed down. Remember, typically right around Chinese New Year, the market kind of has some type of drop off. I think that was right around that area. And then after that, we end up having a little bit of a pop from there. But nothing else to really do off of this one as of yet. But we'll pay attention to it overall. So Bitcoin, nothing there. Now, I want to talk about what's happening with US yen. I'm going to talk about what's happening with US 30. No. And then after that, we're going to talk about what's happening, how each and every program end up doing for the year overall, since this is the first time we've done this in a while. And it's obviously the new year as we go through. Mason, bye. Go ahead. Everybody give me 1 second, please. Okay, so US yen, I'm going to go with that one real quick, and then after that, we'll move forward to everything else. US yen, I ended up talking about at the beginning of the year. I ended up, at the end of last year, I said US yen, Euro, United States dollar, and pound, United States dollar were going to end up benefiting from the United States dollar starting to get weak. And that is what I'm seeing right now at this particular point. Remember, we end up seeing that US yen ended up getting all the way up to 151.73 before actually being able to fall off at 151.93. It broke a inner trend line. It broke the innermost trend line, and then after that broke the innermost trend line, broke the inner trend line, and then after that started to gravitate toward the outer trend line. The outer trend line is somewhere right around that 130 mark, in which is this purple outer trend line that is right here. I do expect that the market will go ahead and start to interact with that overall position at some particular point in time. But that also means that obviously the Japanese yen is starting to get stronger, more because of retracement, not because of everything that's actually happening with that area. Now, the thing is, should we be considering for being able to get into any type of trade? The trade obviously is to the downside. Baby, not yet. We can see that the trade is obviously to the downside when it comes down to this movement. Here's your overall high and your Fibonacci's. From a Fibonacci standpoint, it literally just completed the D extension at this particular movement. So once again, that means nothing, nothing, nothing. Don't do anything. The market has already done made its daily D extension. We're talking about 7 to 11 days of overall movement, which makes me feel better about my decision on not being able to do a prop firm challenge until next week compared to this week, because I do need to see how the market's going to react based off of this information. So US yen, not going to do anything with that. If we take a look at what ended up happening with the, Skywalker, with everybody, I'm sorry for the dead air. I'm sitting up there and making sure my son has his watch that he never puts on ever put on. But US yen, we end up catching sell trades up at 132 with the partial exit mode. It ended up exiting out and all the way down to 129.60, and somewhat of that average was right around that 130 area. So glad that it ended up doing that for the overall profit. It ended up making about 1,400 based off of those movements, which is actually pretty cool when it came down to that. Come here. Everything say hey. Come here. Come here. Come on. All right. Come on. Say good morning. Look in the camera. You say good morning. Say good morning. All right.
Morning.
All right, get out of here.
I don't say good morning.
You already said good morning.
Good morning.
All right, cool. Big-headed little boy. But we end up seeing that movement actually end up pop and go from there. Now, with that being said, give me one quick second. I want to get my other charts and everything else situated so we can be able to see it. I'm going to pull this off of the screen real quick and start to pull up other things. First thing I am pulling up is what's happening with the Boss Band at EA. Boss Band at EA has been performing very well. Obviously, it's coming out in February, February 13th. Valentine's Day to be exact. And it's actually, we're going through the second phase of FTMO trials and being able to see how well it would do in the FTMO trials. It actually ended up failing the FTMO trials in December because we actually ended up doing it during the week of the 16th through the end of the year. So that low volume actually ended up kicking it out. And I was actually happy to see that because I need to see how well it's going to end up performing in a slow market. If you don't know what the weaknesses are, then you will never know how you can be able to make it strong. So currently right now, Boss Band is up 30% or was up 30%. I think it's up a little bit higher at this particular point. 2022, it ended up doing 30%. Currently right now, it's not showing the actual new trades at this point. But Turn it back on. Turn it back on. Thank you.
Good.
Currently, right now, a short trades is 88%, 160% when it comes down to those. We take a look at what's happening for the overall history of today. When it comes down to the overall history for today, we end up having, 4 trades today, this morning. One on US 30, one on Nas 100, another one on US 30, and one on DAX. It ended up making 469, 806, 462, 918, and 743 respectively. Over the course of the last month, it's undid about 18,000 when it comes down to those movements. So that's Boss Band. Lily ended up taking a couple trades this morning on Nas 100 and US 30 and on DAX based off of those movements. So happy about how that overall movement has went. We take a look at what's happening with the regular ball system. We end up taking a trade on Euro United States dollar a little bit earlier today. Actually end up doing about $358 based off of that sale. And currently right now we're going through the phase of FTMO again on the Boss Band. We're doing it with US 30, Nas 100, and Euro United States. Seen over the course of the last 4 months, it's done past all 3 of those for the overall challenge and being able to have a low ratio with those. So this one will end up being a pair that we'll do on the 8th, along with the regular Boss EA file. So we'll see how that goes. I keep y'all track when it comes down to that and how well the market's actually going with that. But what else? Because there's not really anything to be able to trade. So for the year, we end up doing over 2,400% between collectively between everything. The biggest one in particular that I felt like we did very well with was DAX, especially at the end of the year, or when it came down to the beginning of the year. Ended up coming out like gangbusters. Actually ended up losing 2 months when it came down to those percentages, and then did very well at the end. But anytime that you can be able to win over 6 months compared to the year, then I think that you end up doing a very good job overall. We take a look at what ended up happening with US 30. US 30 ended up doing very well. Ended up having a drop-off month in December. Actually, we ended up shutting everything down in December. So that one loss was the one loss that we ended up having before everything kind of went together. But once again, ended up doing very well on those. We take a look at what's happening with the Boss EA overall. Boss EA for Euro United States dollar. Currently right now it's up 2%. We take a look at what's happening with those movements. That's not counting the trade that ended up happening earlier. But end up doing 2% in November and 3% in December. So we're still up overall. Let's see how that kind of plays itself out. Nas 100 is at 9% currently. 2022 it ended up making 1.69% and 7.4% overall when it came down to those movements. Put that back. That's not counting the trades that we ended up taking this morning. And lastly, did I say US 30? So US 30 actually ended up taking, US 30 is actually down right now currently. It ended up having a 10% gain in November. It ended up having an 11% drawdown in December, and mainly because I ended up keeping the system on doing the December 20th to the beginning of the year. And remember, like I ended up saying, I wanted to be able to get the data. I had to be able to see what it's going to look like. We would have just left it alone and would have been up, but there's no reason to sit up there and do that. We got to see how well it does. But with that being said, that's pretty much it. You like what I ended up doing, please make sure that you end up liking the Trade with Travis page. Obviously, take a look at some of the videos that we end up having on our Expert Advisor review page. We end up having, we just end up completing the Undefeated Triangle and the Wolf Scalper for its EAs. I'm going to place that inside of the chat box, and we end up going from there. Let's see. Hold on. Arizona, I take a look at this one. Do you think that Pound Cat would take a turn? Let's take a look at that one real quick. Let's Okay, so let's go. Why would you do that? No, don't do that. Don't do that. You end up hurting yourself. Go upstairs. Let's see. Town Cat, what do we know? Let's talk about gold. What we end up talking about in the big three. Oil was in a position where it failed, which means that the Canadian dollar is going to end up being weaker. The pounds, we end up knowing that the pounds were weak all of last year. It started to get a little bit stronger at the end of the year. So we have to be able to pay attention to those as the overall factors. So I am going to end up saying that more than likely what's happening is that the pound is probably going to end up taking, obviously we're looking at it right here. We see that the pound is starting to take a little bit of a breather from that big retracement move that we end up getting. Once again, this reminds me of what I ended up seeing with the New Zealand dollar and the Australian dollar a couple years ago, where right in 2020 when the market ended up having that big drop, it fell below 50 cents. And then after that, they end up being the biggest players for its overall win rates going into the 2021. So I'm seeing somewhat of the same thing right here. We end up having this large movement to the upside. There's no field to be able to work off of yet. Oh, yeah, it is. There's a field to be able to work off of, but it hasn't completed the extension at 1.69053. The question that you end up happening was, do you think it's going to end up taking a turn? We can see from a weekly perspective that it is in the sell zone. So we're talking about 7 to 11 weeks to the downside, right? That could potentially end up happening. Well, a couple things have to happen. Oil has to get a little bit stronger. And overall, the pound has to get a little bit more weaker at this particular point. Going into next week, we end up having a better idea about what's happening with news before being able to make a movement. But would I expect that the market's going to end up falling down? The answer is yes, because the daily D extension ended up getting hit, and that has not been a full retracement yet. I do expect that the market could go to retrace down to 1.6090 first. And then after that, we'll see how the market kind of reacts from there. But 1.6090 will probably be the first position, which will be the 382. That's the most healthy retracement. At this point, there is about 160 points left. Doesn't necessarily mean that I would jump into it, everything, but that's what's happening with this overall movement at this particular point. See, what's the extension for the 2 hour? The extension for the 2 hours at 160.30, 1.6030. We go to the daily. Take a look at that field. 16030. Kind of, it's somewhat in around that same area. It's a little bit lower than the 382. So, yes, I do expect that the market will continue to keep on falling, but I would not look at being able to trade it, everything, if I'm being honest. All right, cool. That's it. Everybody, see y'all a little bit later on today on Twitch. Please make sure that y'all end up popping into the Trade with Travis Twitch page at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we end up going from there, or $2,100 for everyone else. Like always, make sure that you end up planning your trade your plan with each and every one of y'all in the next video. Take it easy.